In the old days of Minecraft, and I mean very old, there were quite some times when InDev simply just screwed something up with the versions so badly in fact that a lot of them simply just got lost and never got released for a wider audience. And can you just try to take a guess on how many versions in total could have been lost during the early development of Minecraft? Well, over 100 versions of the game were eventually lost, and turns out not only the very early versions were affected by this, with the most recent one being a snapshot for the version 1.8, which is available in the launcher. I was also confused too, but it did make sense in the end, so stay tuned. And this video format is pretty experimental for me, so let me know if you would like the idea of this video, as I'm pretty much experimenting with the type of content to accomplish my childhood dream faster. So in case you're not subscribed, do it, or else... Alright, I'm kidding. Subscribe to me to help me get 0.001% further to the silver play button. Now with that said, here's how I'm gonna go through all of the lost versions that I'm gonna be covering from this article from Minecraft Wiki. I will divide the video in different chapters, which gonna cover each major version of Minecraft, aka Classic, Alpha, and Beta. So without further ado, I'm gonna go through all of them to see if they have something special or something that I did not know. Now let me go to a time where a bit of my audience was not even born actually, and where I was only 1 year old. Minecraft Classic is one of the earliest game development stages in Minecraft, and equally it has the most amount of lost versions of Minecraft. Also, in case some versions would contain like very minor changes, I hope it's okay for you if I would combine multiple versions in each segment of the video, because else I would honestly get really tired of constantly reading a bunch of numbers and points. Alright, now let's start. These 4 versions were given to the players as a part of private alpha testing for the game. What I found pretty insane though is that the wiki pages that cover this contain whole chat logs with Notch himself and the players. This community is literally so f***ing cool. Anyway, the versions themselves aren't really that special besides the fact that they are lost, of course. They pretty much only had major issues with the mouse movement and nothing more. Point 2a and 3a released at the same day as the previous 4 versions on May 16th, 3 days after the public release of the game. Point 2a added the legendary Minecraft font that we all love and know today, as well as FPS and chunk counter. And Point 3a added a cave generation system underground. This version is the first one to ever have screenshot from the lost ones, with the others being without any screenshots at all, with it being released on the same day as the previously mentioned ones. Like, imagine Minecraft being updated a few times every single day. Regardless, it added, in my opinion, very uncomfortable right-click switching between destroyment and placing blocks, as well as a bit higher resolution and a few minor bug fixes. It also has a lost video too, which is insane, as not only is this version itself considered lost media, but the first ever Minecraft YouTube video is simply just lost as well, with only the recreation being available. Imagine just casually making a video for yourself and then accidentally making history without even realizing it. But anyway, after this version, Notch finally took a break and went to sleep. The next day, on May 17th, he made these 2 versions, which I thought aren't that special. Point 2a had some simple stability fixes and additional minor changes, but because it was unplayable, Notch made a patch that fixed it. However, while they both may seem not that special, or at least they seemed so to me until I saw that this was actually the first version where people literally went insane and started creating literal history. That way, some legendary Minecraft arts appeared, which were made out of grass, dirt, planks, and stone only. This was also the time back when Minecraft was still playable in the browser. It actually still is today, but I don't really want to talk about it since Mojang is pretty strict regarding it and is constantly taking it down, so I am gonna move on. Point 12a was a version that was released on 19th of May and that has received noticeable changes, such as addition of liquids, though they did not work fine at all, bedrock render distance settings, new level generation, as well as updated levels, aka worlds with an infinite ocean surrounding them. The following versions were only there to fix bugs and slightly improve performance. The only version that was actually saved from these 4 is the classic 0.0.12a-03. Now you may ask me, a person with hidden nickname, how can a version that is publicly available be in this video? Isn't that supposed to be lost? I thought so as well, until I read missing pre-upload. Basically, some of the versions were taken down and re-uploaded to maybe fix some issues, I guess, and then pre-re-upload ones are the ones that are actually lost, which is still pretty interesting what type of differences the pre-re-upload versions may have, especially given the fact that Notch didn't even mention exactly why he re-uploaded re-uploaded this version one day after publishing it, and from now on, all the re-uploaded versions are going to be marked with an underscore to give you a better idea of which ones are actually lost and which ones are actually kinda available, because as it turns out, Minecraft has a lot of first versions of which haven't... Wait, what? Has a lot of first versions which haven't been saved and with only re-uploads being available. This version was released on 22nd May of 2009, and it's also re-uploaded in the launcher. According to the wiki, the version has modified dates from 2013, and it's an early version of the original used for testing world size. The actual version is lost. It added slight texture changes, as well as a menu that can be opened through pressing escape, and some minor gameplay features and minor bug fixes. But more importantly, it had support for saving worlds for players with accounts, which were supposed to log in. That was very unique, as Minecraft Java doesn't have this feature by default, except you pay microslop. Not gonna lie, it is actually kinda insane seeing some of the iconic Minecraft features like this block outline that we all are used to today evolving in these lost versions, given the fact that there are so many of them existing. Moving on. This version was the first one to add ores, sand, trees, and wood, of course. It also had clouds, scroll wheel block picking support, fog, and other minor additions added, such as slightly changed textures. The versions followed by it had some minor bug fixes, stability improvements, and spawn point saving and loading. Also, take a look at this ore generation. This is so insane how much ore was being generated in caves back then. Like, imagine that much ore in a cave. Also, a small detail that I noticed was the fact that Notch simply couldn't code a mouse camera movement properly, as after a 7th version of the 0.14a, Notch has quote finally fixed mouse movement code after failed attempts to do so, which I found very funny while researching. The multiplayer test names in some of these versions speak for themselves, and there's also a reason why there are so many of them existing. Also, I hope it's okay if I would write down the release date in the video instead of always telling you them, because I honestly forgot to write it in my script a couple of times while writing it. This version in particular added Steve, aka Mob, for some reason, and obviously multiplayer, which crashed a lot of times and which had to be fixed. But it seems like players had a lot of fun despite that. So in short, multiplayer and chat were the main additions. All the other stuff was simply just bug fixes and stability improvements for client and multiplayer. These versions contained improvements and additions to the multiplayer, such as famous commands like /op, dop, ban, unban, kick, and say. The only version that we got is the one that was re-uploaded 3 times to fix bugs, which means pre-upload and 2 re-uploads are missing. Not even a month after public release, the game already had somewhat functioning multiplayer added. Truly insane given the fact that nowadays people sometimes complain that Mojang does too little for the game. This version added teleport command and skins that only paying users could use back then. This is still partially true today, but only for quote online servers like Hypixel. If you're on Bedrock, however, and not playing on PC or phone, you will have to pay because, I mean, Microsoft. I don't think I need to explain this. The version after was there to fix one bug, so let's move on. This version added glass, sponge, and the famous hotbar that we all are used to today. Animations were added to water and lava with slightly updated textures as well. The glass itself looked very ugly and wasn't really that transparent as far as I can tell from the only screenshot with it. And the versions after this one added some changes to the glass textures and minor bug fixes. Fun fact, but a similar texture was later used for the ice texture, which is pretty fitting. 0.20a added lots of wool with various colors, gold block, as well as flowers like rose, dandelion, and mushrooms. This version was also the first one to have an inventory which looked like this. Compared to today, it looks super tiny and compact. There's also a command named solid that toggles between placing stone and placing bedrock, which is interesting because in terms of changes, there's one no longer allowing players to break bedrock, with the admins being the only ones that are allowed to, and some minor changes like the inversion of the scroll wheel movement in the hotbar and darkening of player skins even. 0.21a wasn't really special. It added some minor adjustments to already existing features like changing the color of the inventory background, and even though the next version was also not special at all, with the only change being a bug fix, what caught my eye though is the fact how creative Minecraft community was back then. Like, looking at all the screenshots, it gives me a weird feeling. It really has its own vibe. If I would add a retro music to these screenshots, a tiny bit of my audience would probably feel very nostalgic, but unfortunately I don't know any that hasn't been copyrighted, or at least I am not sure. Though I was born in 2008, I would really like to experience Minecraft in this classic state, as like I said, it looks very cool to me. But alright, moving forward. This version is very interesting, as it was the first version to add sounds and music by C418 that we all love today. He added sounds for wood, stone, grass and gravel. And speaking of music, he added 4 types of tracks. Though they are called calm, they are simply just the well-known music from the Volume Alpha album, except for one. I've never heard this track before, so I'm gonna let you listen to the first 5 seconds of it. What's even creepier about this song, despite the fact that it is not calm at all, like all of the comment section says that it also says Mojang specifications in the middle of this track.
Mojang specifications.
This song was probably made as a joke, or at least luckily Notch just removed it, because imagine just hearing this instead of the well-known calming soundtrack that Minecraft has. That would be so f***ing funny. And all of the following versions added minor fixes like the mute button to mute, an absolute masterpiece of music world, except for calm4.ogg, and of course bug fixes. 2.23a surprisingly for me added VASD movement by default instead of the arrow keys. I thought by that time every game had used this type of movement, but I guess I'm a new gen to understand that, though I am turning 18 this year. And overall, this version didn't really add something special aside from the ability to remap keys and a option menu. I'm actually surprised that the community has literally every single small fact noted on each of the versions, like check this out. Classic .23a has the biggest minor version number of all Java Edition versions. At 23, the highest in Java Edition Alpha is 17 with Alpha 0.17. The highest in Bedrock Edition is 221 with 1.16.221. The highest in Bedrock Edition development versions is 230 with 0.230 beta. And the highest in the full release of Java Edition is 11 with 1.21.11. But I think even this type of knowledge will bring you more in life than some type that gets taught in schools. Alright, whatever. Damn, there are a few more classic versions remaining, and it literally seems like it's going to be my longest video on my channel that I have ever made, which is super cool for me, not gonna lie. Speaking of all of the survival tests, they were there to test survival, obviously, so the .24 versions contain following changes. The removal of creative mode, a game mode without which you literally cannot imagine Minecraft today. The addition of hostile and passive mobs like creepers, pigs, skeletons, and zombies. The first armor was added like chain, plate, as well as arrows that could be shot with the press of tab button. Even though it was a classic version, not even alpha, I would never bind something like that to the tab key, or perhaps I just don't get something, as the only time I tried touching game developing and programming, my mind felt like it is burning in flames and was about to melt, so I deleted all the software and never touched programming again. This was the time I understood that video making is the best thing for me, as my childhood dream is to get 100k subs and a silver play button, so as all of the YouTubers during the old days of YouTube used to say, smash that subscribe button to help me push my #1 childhood dream 0.001% further. You all are the best. I am so grateful to all the people that were subscribing to me since my last video that I am now determined to push y'all more videos and move towards my dream. Alright, sorry about that. I think I talked a little too much about myself. Coming back to the topic. .24st added the well-known health bar, signs, fall damage, and overall all the basic stuff from survival Minecraft just in the very early stages. Fun fact, the first versions of the survival tests contain not survival but hardcore mode, as players could not respawn and the so-called levels had to be recreated, and the Steve texture also had a redesign, which, like, imagine it would have stayed in the game. Since I want to finish this chapter faster, these were not all the changes that are mentioned, but the link to the source is gonna be available, so I'm going to leave it as it was really interesting for me to read, honestly. .25st added some buffs to the hostile mobs, purple arrows for the skeletons, pigs were dropping mushrooms? Alright, whatever, I just want to finish this chapter already. And the player also spawned with 20 arrows by default. The following versions added minor changes to the arrow damage, interface, and gameplay. And the final survival test version. This version is a big one, especially for me, as it is currently 12:23 AM as of writing this text for this exact moment of the video, and I don't really want to release it way too late, so let me make it quick. In terms of blocks, this lost version added bookshelves, bricks, iron blocks, moss stone, TNT, and stone slabs that could be combined. In terms of mobs, spiders were added as a single mob addition. This version also added cobweb texture, which was not used yet, and also particles like splash, rain, and smoke, and of course rain weather. The other changes refer to the texture texture changes and gameplay ones. And finally, the last classic version, which is considered lost, is Classic 0.28. It added Obsidian, Sheeps, creative mode was re-added, huge texture changes including Steve, which looks like Steve again, as well as re-addition of multiplayer, performance boosting, and of course bug fixes. Whew, exactly 60 versions. 60 versions of classic Minecraft were considered as lost, and with only a few re-uploads being available. This isn't that surprising, as given the fact how, let's say, very little developed the old internet was, yet very aesthetic. Like, I did not grow up on this, but really felt truly something special in it. And the more Minecraft progressed, the less versions were eventually lost because of the growing fanbase of Minecraft as well. I personally started being interested in Minecraft when I was about 5, I think. I started playing Minecraft before my brain memory was even fully developed, as I can really remember how excited I was to try a new back then horse update in Minecraft without even remembering how I played before that. That is one of the earliest memories I have, not only Minecraft related, but even in my life, I think. The excitement for the horse update. I was born in 2008 as a reminder. But alright, this video is still about the lost versions and a bit about me, but still, I have to stay on the topic. Although you can actually let me know whether you like me being more talkative in my videos. Regardless, we are still in the old internet, aka in 2009, where a lot of versions of Minecraft were lost. So I am moving to the next chapter of my video. This chapter is actually even more interesting than the classic one, as Notch, for whatever reason, could just not move on with the InDev version 0.31, as it contains 45 different variations which were lost, and 7 regular InDev ones. So yeah, it is going to be very interesting, but hey, at least it is not that much like alpha, so alright, let's begin. These 6 versions were added shortly before 2010 started, and they added even more iconic things that we all are used to in the modern Minecraft, like the inventory, early versions of which looked very weird and different, and even more mouse code fixing, or at least attempts to do so, as even after several months, Notch was not able to fix the mouse movement code. In terms of other additions and changes, Notch added iron, leather, and studded armor, which is an armor that was eventually removed and never used. Pretty insane, I know. As well as shovel, sword, quiver, and apple. All of them had no functionality, but fun fact, this was the first paid version of the game that did cost 10 euros, as it also had these weird mobs which were also removed later. I actually find it kind of funny that some of the versions were even made shortly before the new year, like instead of just celebrating it, Notch was full on coding during that time. To make it easier for me, I decided to split the updates with a span of a week. So here are all of the additions from the lost versions from Monday, January 4th, 2010 to January the 9th. Starting from the beginning, Notch added 99 torches to the hotbar for whatever reason and changed the sound engine. After that, he fixed some bugs and added world type variations like floating, original, flat, and island. You could even adjust world shape and size, although the size of the world was not that big anyway. And he also added changes to the creative mode, making the blocks no longer infinite. The following versions show that Notch was actually pretty inspired by the island themed worlds, as the versions after added significant changes to them, and even the first ever variation of the Nether, it was called Hell, with all of the water replaced by lava and with only dark light surrounding the player. And honestly, I would kind of like having this type of floating island world in my Minecraft world today, not just the end dimension. It sucks. It really sucks. Like, simply just look at the screenshot of it. Doesn't that look beautiful to you? For me, it does. The versions after added some insignificant changes, like slight adjustment to the fire, bug fixes, and texture changes, and even more screenshots of the islands, which make me really want to play these unavailable versions, honestly. The versions from January 11th to January 14th contain pretty minor technical changes, like easy switching between full screen mode, window rescaling, and it even has a version the changes of which are literally unknown, and no one can now know them, as the version is no longer accessible, and with only these screenshots from them available. Other version made water no longer infinite, added creative mode variant which was buggy, and even more water physics changes. There was even a water spawner existing back then. A week from Friday, January of 22nd to 29th, added proper code to the liquid generation, lava spawner, a bow with arrows, lighting changes, and also adjustments to the world generation. Not bad given the fact that the versions before had minor changes changes. Moving on, the versions after added chests, a starting house with these chests that contained every accessible block and tool from the game. Like, Notch, why can't you just decide whether you want survival or creative mode in the game? Changes to the axe texture were made and some technical ones, but we are only in the beginning of the list, as in the versions from January 28th to 29th were the ones that added a lot of stuff. In January of 28th, Notch added emerald or end emerald tools and block. Yes, that's right. Emerald tools existed, but they were just diamonds. Later on, Notch changed the name to Diamond. He also added stone and wooden tools as well, followed by the iron, gold, and of course emerald ingot. And even gear, the early variation of redstone, was added in this lost version too, which has no screenshots at all. The versions from January 29th added more polishing to these features like crafting recipes for the blocks, items, and materials. And also Steve was added. No, not that Steve. This Steve and also Black Steve. These are their original names, by the way. And ore smelting, which only worked by throwing the ores into the fire or lava back then. In the minor versions after, Notch tried to fix mouse and keyboard bug related to Linux, a operating system that I am actually using nowadays, Arch, by the way, in case someone is interested. And yes, this video is entirely made and edited inside of Linux, as I have purged slop-dose months ago from my main SSD. And the final version on January 29th added even more tools, only one of which was craftable, which was the golden sword, and a proper crafting system with the crafting table that allowed even more things like bowls, soups, blocks, and more. Who would have thought that this crafting menu became so iconic and memorable that Minecraft literally cannot be imagined without it today. Even crazier is the fact that it all was added in the lost versions. Now for the final week of the lost InfDev 0.31 version. Notch was truly locked in and actually added even more iconic features than ever, with one of the re-uploads of the lost versions that I'm about to mention even being available. These versions are the final ones from the lost InDev version 0.31, and they added even more mobs which look pretty weird, replacing the Steve mob, proper bedrock generation, the first ever logo of Minecraft, which looked like this. For comparison, this is how it looks like nowadays, and even the famous yellow splash with the first one ever being pre-beta was added on top of some minor changes like the addition of durability. The minor changes after added bug fixes, mobs dropping flint and steel, and many other minor changes and fixes. Speaking of the version that has been re-uploaded 2 times with the pre-re-uploads missing as well, it added even more splashes, and here's the entire list. Changed lava behavior and stone blocks, including ores that cannot be broken with your fists. And with lava changes, there are also water ones, as water can now create splash particles. The other changes are minor and not really important except for the re-addition of mobs and the entire removal of mob. Not Steve, by the way. The lost versions after added an improved AI for the mobs, including their behavior, approach, and spawn places, with the versions after adding even more changes to the mobs like the first edition of giants, difficulties, and quality of life stuff like right-clicking cuts the amount of items in half, which is insanely useful, and the player model was also added in the inventory. And of course, bug fixing. Phew, these were most of the changes from the lost InDev 0.31 versions. Keep in mind that I was sometimes skipping some non-important stuff, like I hope y'all are okay with the fact that I did not spend extra time on an entire video segment of telling something like in Minecraft Java Edition InDev 0.31 2010-0205-2241 Notch fixed one glitch that caused the game to freeze during loading. Like, I'm telling you that just so you won't have a feeling that you missed something out whenever I say that the version contained not important things or just contained bug fixes. With that said, let me quickly tell you about the remaining missing InDev versions before I move on. Alright, starting from the earliest from here, it added farmland, wheat and bread, hoes, seeds, and obviously farming mechanics, as well as texture changes to golden tools and some other items, with even more splashes added. Like, he added so much, I have a feeling that Notch was more focused on adding splashes than useful features, just like Microslop is focused on adding AI bloat that eats tons of RAM into Windows instead of properly fixing it. It was a great add for Linux to me, so thanks, Microslop. Back to the topic. The following versions added the re-implementation of an absolute masterpiece of a soundtrack, changed some block mechanics like allowing light and rain to go through glass, which was not a feature before surprisingly, and also the addition of mob sounds and daylight cycle, and for the final versions they contain simple bug fixes, or should I say attempts to fix specific bugs, more armor functionality, difficulty tweaks, and of course bug fixes, and more importantly splashes. This was really a lot for the InDev versions, especially for me since Minecraft has more lost versions, but luckily as time went on Minecraft was having less and less lost versions as Minecraft was progressing in popularity very quickly and people finally learned to back stuff up. Honestly, if I knew that my video would be that long, I wouldn't be making it, so you know what to do. With that said, let me move on to 2 final chapters of this video. This chapter is going to be one of the quickest ones with the reasons just mentioned, so let me make it quick. For me, the InfDev versions are really the weirdest ones, as they removed a bunch of things and added many other weird ones, which looks more like something Mojang would do on April Fools, as all of the mobs they added were removed, with the addition of the Brick Pyramid, Infinite World Generation, with the Farlands too, and an Obsidian Wall with an Golden Apple and painting crafts out of nowhere. But it gets weirder, as the Giant Zombie and Mob were added upon 999 wood and glass as the player spawns, and literally everything else that they added removed, with some of the things re-implemented later like caves, particles, trees, with the updated world generation to include sand and gravel, and of course minor bug fixes and additions, with the cool one being in my opinion the level previewer, which despite being buggy looked actually pretty cool being added. And that's about it for the main InfDev editions. Now the almost final chapter. Version 1.0.1 further added the well-known Minecraft features, and they were mainly focused on redstone, iron door, redstone ore and torch, pressure plates, slight adjustments to their textures, and permanent removal of gears. Point 2 added nobody knows what, but point 5, however, not only do we have its re-upload, but also a few changes to snow, ice, water and science, including snowblock crafting and snowball throwing. Point 6.02 has unknown changes. Once again, pretty crazy that Minecraft has actually a few lost versions that have unknown changes, but whatever. Alpha 1.0.8 added cows, leather, and milk with no functionality, as well as leather armor. Point 17 on the other hand added fences, spider jockeys, and some slight improvements and adjustments to the existing features. The patch after was a simple bug fix. And finally, coming to the kind of final version in my list that is actually lost. Alpha version 1.2.1. This version added minor changes like particles having the matching color for the biome, adjustments to the hostile mob spawning, and the ability for the music to play in the multiplayer, as well as bug fixes. The reason that this version is the last one in my list is the fact that it is the last version that is nowhere to be found as of today. All the other versions which are lost are either server versions or just re-uploads to fix some bugs or adjust something. The most recent version that is quote-unquote lost is the re-upload to the snapshot server version for the version 1.8. With that being said, shout out to Crystals and 3D Circuit for having close guesses on the video topic by thumbnail. You can join my server too in case you want to chat with me or participate in such events, although I'm actually not that active there, but anyway. And before I come to the end of this video, I want to thank Minecraft Wiki and all their contributors that actually looked deep into details into each version and for piecing it all together. It was really interesting to read, I'm not gonna lie, but keep in mind that all of the versions that I've mentioned don't contain all the changes that I have mentioned, simply because honestly I've never made a video that long and I just wanted to make it shorter in some parts, so feel free to look each version up and see all of the changes for yourself that I have not mentioned, even though I only avoided mentioning very little changes only. So yeah, with that said, you are worthy and you matter. Love yourself, and I wish you an absolutely amazing rest of your day.